The Fan.
WIBC HD2, HD3, Indianapolis. Your home for the 2024 NHL Stanley Cup Final. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
And here we go.
What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
Richardson gonna take off and run. He's in there! Touchdown! I-N-D-Y! Outside give to Taylor. Stretching it out. He's at the 5, and he walks in untouched. Jonathan Taylor. Turner wants to do more damage, and he does.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, hell of a time, hell of a weekend. Thank you all for joining us on this Monday. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, we get like mid-April stuff going on around here. But later on this week, that is going to be weather that I absolutely love. Hot and sweaty, and man, you don't want to have a shirt on. You got to be shirtless on Friday and this weekend. That's what June and July and August should be about. Not today. I saw Derek Schultz a little bit earlier put out on X, I love a good month of June. I'm paraphrasing what he said here, but basically he loves the fact in June he can wear a hoodie. I think it sucks. No, it's June. We work our ass off way too hard and too long to get here to have a recreation of April. No. So let's get today out of here, and we are ready to rock. You know what, this weekend, too, and I'll get you into the personal stuff this weekend was awesome, and I know you probably don't really care about that, but the stuff we normally care about, while not so awesome, it did do my heart some good. Are you ready to hear what did my heart some good? I love it. Absolutely stinking love it when sports are about sports. Can I see a show of hands out there? Who else loves when sports are about sports? When we don't have all this other BS that is infiltrating our getaway. That's our personal space. That's where we go. That's where we go, and we're not jacked around with one side or the other, or politics, or the latest news story, or why somebody's mad at the other person and mad this and mad that and shaking my fist, pounding the table. While we still do that, certainly watching sports, this is supposed to be for us. And now it is so often where things all of a sudden now are probably even more relatable, or made more manufactured, I should say. Manufactured to be a part of the sports scope, and I have never liked it, and I don't like it at all. But this weekend, with yet another saga, and this is not even a sequel anymore, this thing's going to go on like Friday the 13th. Anytime anything at all happens with Caitlyn Clark, everybody loses their mind. Everybody loses it. And you know what? What did I tell you last week? The news poachers come in and they end up grinding this thing into bits and then reforming it into something completely different. It's something that we don't want to talk about. Something that we think is stupid. Something that is not as sports worthy. And it did my heart some good with this, again, latest saga, this sequel upon the sequel, this Friday the 13th, the final chapter type of deal with Caitlyn Clark. I love it. I like her even more as a player now. And it wasn't about scoring 30 at Washington on Friday. I couldn't care less, although, yeah, I guess we do. But I like her now more than ever as a player, because all these jackasses that we have infiltrating our space, and saying this and saying that and making it into an ism, and we got to go to battle about some ism. The one that is the focus of it, Caitlyn Clark, just wants to play basketball. Just wants to play basketball. You know, sometimes in sports, it's really weird. You don't always get what you want out of it. Sometimes it doesn't happen. I've explained this on a much lesser degree to my kids, and I'm assuming a lot of you out there have as well. Oh, I can understand why everybody would want Caitlyn Clark on the Olympic team. I guess. What if she's sitting on the bench and doesn't get time and everybody gets mad? Really, everybody's going to get mad because that's what everybody does with this. What everybody does is get mad, but nobody at all sits back and lets us, me or you incredibly intelligent listeners to this show every day, you kind of lean back and you take her now for what she is worth. And that is awesome because she just wants to do what we're here to watch her do. It's why we love it. It's why I love basketball. It's funny, her attitude regarding all of this, her attitude to me now takes over for the enjoyment I would have previously, and especially going back to Iowa and watching her make a 30-foot step-back jumper. This is better for me. This is better for all of us that battle every day to have the politics and the newsworthiness and the poaching stay out of our sports. And also, while we're doing that, we're also battling the hot take artists out there. And that's what it's all about right now. You don't go many places where you don't get that. Like, I know everybody jokes about, well, you say that week number 1 in the NFL is a must-win. Well, you guys know how I think right now. That's not a hot take. I'm just not very bright, and that's what I think. I prioritize game to game. That's just my way of going about it. But you know what you get there. But we're battling the news poachers and the hot take artists all the way around, both the good and the bad. I don't think there's any way right now. Can you justify it? Is she the 12th best player? 13th best player even? In the WNBA? Listen, I'm not educated enough to know exactly, but I can tell you this. I am sure enough educated to know that I love the fact that she does not want to be treated like a sideshow. I love that. I am so proud that she is here right now for that alone. All right, if I don't make it on, if I don't earn it on merit right now, then I'm just going to go back to work. I'm going to continue to work. I'll take that month off. I'll get some rest. Then I'll come back at it. Then I'll focus it in on what matters to me right now. And this is the Indiana fever. My God, you should love every second of that. And for those out there that give her junk because they feel she is being politically correct, it is okay to just want to do what you're there to do. And that's play basketball. It's so good. I love it. You know, all this other stuff. And it is every single week now. Believe me, there's jealousy. There's always jealousy. There's jealousy on every level, every single place. You're dealing with jealousy right now. Both amateur and professional jealousy. You're never going to pat that down. It's never going to go away. And certainly there's a great deal of jealousy going on in what she is doing. And while I think one of the lame reasons is not having her on the team, and I think Christine Brennan wrote this, and I think this is lame. Well, you know, what happens if she doesn't play? Or what happens? Listen, here's what's happening right now. A lot of America, and this is unfortunate, this is where we are, and you guys all know it. A lot of America is going to be able to do what they really deep down inside want to do, and that's root against America, root against the women. They can't wait to do that. So that's going to happen now anyway. There is no way unless all of a sudden you have some meeting and say, yeah, we'll go ahead and add her. And you know what? She doesn't want it. I have such a high level of admiration for that. She wants to play, and if she haven't proven it yet, then so be it. She'll go back to work. She is one of the very few, I would say a handful, that has handled this entire thing the absolute best. Honestly, not even her coach. Her coach takes that private that conversation about, now they've, going to wake up the monster. I don't know. Maybe she said, hey, go ahead and tell them you're waking up a monster. But, again, just knowing her from what she says in the public eye now, it doesn't really sound like her. First of all, if you're the coach, if you're Christy Fine, you don't say that anyway. You keep that to yourself. All you really have to do is say, you're extra motivated now. That's going to motivate her to work even harder, to concentrate any more on the team. I don't know about this waking up in the monster, because she struggled at times, and that's okay. That is okay. Your first year at a different level of basketball, you're not just given things. And what she has accomplished in this world of recognition to become iconic before she even stepped foot professionally into basketball is absolutely amazing. But we have talked about all along how that also has to tag along. You have to have success. I love Lance Stevenson, and you all know that. Love Lance Stevenson. And every time, even this year, by the way, anybody ever mentioned, hey, why don't we bring in Lance? That'll get the crowd excited. You don't, he may want to be a sideshow. I don't know. But she does it. And I'm glad that she does it. We get enough of a sideshow with everything else. Can we have one spot, one place, one vicinity in which we don't feel the need to have some Jerry Springer show-esque sideshow? Now, seriously, this weekend, people were asking me about it, and I'm just going to take my cue from her because I love the take that she has offered. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you at all it's PC. What I'm going to tell you is this is a young lady that has worked her ass off to this point and will continue to work her ass off and doesn't want anything given to her and doesn't want to be a sideshow, and I admire that greatly. I hope you do too. Well, how many other eyeballs are going to be drawn or not? I mean, now everybody here, everybody in America is going to be rooting against the women just because of that. But again, I understand this. I'm sure there's jealousy. Professional jealousy occurs everywhere. Happens all the time. But again, whether you're on the side, well, she has to be there, or you're not going to care, a missed opportunity. This has been and always will be something that needs to coincide with legitimacy. You have to have it. And I know you hear all the time, so flippantly, names thrown around. Magic, Bird, Jordan, Steph Curry. I mean, that's just what it is. That's like hot taking going on. She has come into the WNBA. She has entered her profession, basketball-wise, with just an incredible target on herself. And it has been a struggle. Her team's not very good. That has been a struggle. But she has earned even more of a fan. And I'm supposed to be biased here, but I can't help myself. I can't. I don't care about a jump shot. I don't care about a nice feed, a pass. I don't care about any of the basketball-related stuff right now. I'm talking about her personality and what is so necessary in a world that most of the time anymore we look over. She wants to make it. She wants to earn it on her own merit. She's done that so far, so why in the world would she want to change that up now? Oh, well, the reason why we're going to keep you is because the television ratings are going to go up. Oh, great. Okay. Sweet. I love the fact. And deep down inside, she probably does have her feelings hurt. Deep down inside, she probably is a little bit upset. That stokes the fire of a competitor, though. I wish I would have just the least bit of that work ethic and certainly that integrity. I love that. Really do. So if you're asking me whether or not she deserves to be on the team, I will tell you this. If you're looking at it from a strictly, hey, everybody's going to watch because this is a phenomenon that's going on right now. If you're looking at it from a sideshow angle, okay. But she's told you all that needs to be said. You understand? You have work to do. You pat everybody who's going on the back, and you have their back when they go. You could not ask for a better representation than Caitlyn Clark in this market. You couldn't. I think Peyton Manning ever wanted anything he didn't earn or deserve? You think he just got here by having the Manning name? He was pretty damn talented. Pretty talented. Now, I have a great deal of admiration for that, and that did my heart some good this weekend, and I hope it did you as well. And I know a lot of you are probably battling whether or not she should be there, or whether or not there's racism involved, or going back to the sexism stuff. Now, you heard her say that she understands and she just wants to play basketball. And this is both sides too. This is those that are consistently defending her, but they're only defending her because it's defending one of their outrageous points they have made in the past. That's the only reason. I mean, a lot of these people don't even care about basketball in general. It's just this story and right now. And it is so easy to fan the flames of this and build it in your direction if you want to. But we will never forget, and should not, that she wants what is the betterment of her teammates, this organization, this market. She just wants to play basketball. And that is better to me than any great pass, any steal, any breakaway, any jump shot. And let's look at it, too. She is truly one of the very few that have handled this whatsoever with any sort of dignity, any sort of integrity. All that stuff that we kind of throw around as words all the time, but probably really haven't investigated too much what they mean. I have a great deal of admiration for that. That is Caitlyn Clark to me, everybody. And I thought this weekend even more so solidified it. If you guys want to jump on and talk about it, we certainly can at 239-1070. So it's amazing. I don't know how. I guess I'm on there a lot, so I have to question myself, too, of my ability to stay away. But I don't know how you guys do the whole social media thing as much. I don't know how I do it, I guess. I don't know how I do it at all. But it will drive you absolutely insane. For the eyeballs, she wants to be more about just, oh, that's Caitlyn Clark. I want to see her. She wants it to be about her and what she has earned. I love that. It's what her parents and grandparents, well, take that back, grandparents. That's what they taught us to do. That's what we're supposed to do. Earn it. You're not given anything. You haven't accomplished anything yet. In college you have, but you reset it. It's been a struggle so far. And there's nothing wrong if you're not one of the top 12 right now. Nothing wrong with it. All right, 239-1070. And again, I know it's an overblown story, and I'm sure that the last 6 hours here probably have discussed it ad nauseum, but I just wanted to give you my take on it and just how proud that I am that she is in this market with that attitude. My God, I love it. No pissing, no moaning, no whining, no crying, no excuses. And to me, you can question that, and I'm not going to. To me, that is Caitlyn Clark in a nutshell. That is transparency. I have a great deal of admiration for that. Hopefully you do, too. Hey, shout out to Evansville, too. I know that they lost 2 out of 3 to the number 1 ranked Tennessee Volunteers, but that was one hell of a weekend for Evansville. They did Evansville, UE, certainly that team, Vanderburgh County, and the Pocket City, just such a high level of good over the weekend. Yeah, 12-1 stunk, and I saw it coming from a couple of different ways. One, One was you knew with the pitching being worn out and there being a thin line in the first place that a Game 3 was going to be difficult, but you thought that about Game 2 and they got a win. And then just strictly for me, I knew it was going to be difficult because I don't know about you. Does it work this way for you? If I plan around oftentimes watching a live sporting event, more times than not, I get screwed over on the outcome. Anybody else? I think I said this before, that it always comes out the way you don't want it to. So I was down at Lake Monroe yesterday. I rented a boat, took a captain's test. I'm a captain now. Did you guys know that? Yeah, port and starboard and the bow and the stern. If you guys need me to come down and captain your vessel, I'll captain your vessel. I couldn't believe it. I went out there and I said, I'm kind of bored right here. Let's rent a boat. And we rented a boat, and then I had to take a test. I go, man, I haven't taken a test since 1993. But I passed it with flying colors. Now, I will say the multiple choice questions were a tad bit simple. I don't know if I'd had to watch the entire video to know that I shouldn't go speeding through an area in which everybody is swimming. I think I know that. Oh, yeah, don't go speedboating through there. That's right near the beach. But it's pretty awesome down there yesterday. But I knew I was planning out time. I want to get home, watch Evansville, watch Tennessee, that matchup. Get home in time. They push it back an hour because of a weather delay in Knoxville. And I just knew that it was going to screw me, and it did. Then I got to take advantage again at Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Listen, you get there on merit, and the Pacers were swept. 4 straight. But you still look at the first 2 games of the finals, and then 3 of those 4, and you're going, that is wildly competitive. Now you're getting all the exit stories on the Pacers and what they should or shouldn't do. Why is it that we're in a place where everybody thinks that trading somebody is always better? We battled that the week before last with Andrew Nembhard. Everybody always thinks, well, you got to make a trade here. Got to make a trade. What if Chad Buchanan was right? What if rebounding does get better if more people do some rebounding? If it's more of a collective team effort. They do have a category that says team rebounds. You guys know that, right? Team rebounds. What if he's right about that? What if he really meant that? How many of you out there think, as is right now, and that is with, again, the addition of Obi Toppin, that this thing is going to be good enough to get to where you expect? And is trading always something you have to do? We'll discuss that coming up a little bit later on, too. I mentioned we have a loaded show. The U.S. swimming trials are coming to Indy, a 4-pack again. Right on, James, coming up before the end of the show. Shout out to Friday, too. If anybody showed up Friday at Morse Reservoir, that was one of our party deck tour stops with Deep Eddy Vodka, man. It was awesome. A shout out to Romy, that's Jim Romanek, and Scott Wolf and Nyla for hosting. Rick Venturi, if you missed any of that conversation, just spectacular Colts stuff. Both Gina and Lindsay from Channel 13, my friends Matt and Matt from AAA Hoosier Motor Club will have some more tickets for you later on this week for that coming up on Friday. Our Destination Friday with Deep Eddy Vodka. We're on the back deck at the Mucky Duck on the south side. Man, good times. Yeah, Morse Reservoir was awesome. Pat Sullivan was up there. Got to see Kyle Udemark for the first time in a while. Good to see Kyle, the former producer of this show, was out there too. But you guys make this thing roll, I'll tell you. It is always fun. This is the reason why I like to go out. People say, man, how can you do this? And then you talk to them during a break, and then you come back. It's because I love being out. And when you love something like that, that's how you'll handle it. Yeah, it's not tired and worn out. And, oh, man, you know what? This is going to bug me. 1,000 times better than being in studio, even if James is always in studio. Love being out. Mucky Duck, Deep Eddy Vodka, that's coming up on Friday. All right, I got room for you coming up on the other side, too. The Indiana and Kentucky All-Stars. Yeah, this thing is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And not the talent, by the way. Talent is still incredibly awesome. But the viewership certainly is doing just that. A little Major League Baseball discussion also coming up. The Fever, Kinetic Sun later on tonight at 7 o'clock. I believe that is a Channel 13 Pat Boylan event coming up this evening at 7 with the Fever on the road against the WNBA's best, in fact, the Connecticut Sun. And again, a shout out to Caitlyn Clark. Thank you so much for doing what so many, hardcore adults unfortunately cannot. I have a great deal of admiration. The earn it on merit and not wanting to be a sideshow, I dig. All right, that and more inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. The stream, the app, HD Radio is also here. Just getting started on a Monday. I know it kind of seems like it's April, but it's not. We are in June. Later on this week, the Heat will be R.I.P. Glenn Fry on, but unfortunately today it is kind of like April a little bit. But we'll celebrate with a lot of sports conversation. We'll see if you agree with my thoughts on Caitlyn Clark and other stuff or not. 239-1070. You and I on the other side. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Need assistance with door and window projects? The Home Depot can help.
With an E.
The Ride with JMV.
The sportos, the motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Royce writes this. We are now in the participation trophy generation. It's doing all the talking. I'm not even thinking about it, Nathaniel, from the angle of time off that benefits her game and that of the Fever. I will say this. You can get lousy words on either side. If I'm her coach, if I'm Christy Sides, unless she wanted me to share that with the world, I wouldn't have. That, they're waking up a monster. It's been difficult enough already for her. Why would you want to do and say that? Unless we don't know. And she was prompted by Caitlyn Clark, and I'm sorry if I doubt that seriously. You'd want your coach saying that, of all people. You say that to your coach? Yeah, go out there and make sure you tell all those reporters there. Tell James Boyd, who's on the scene, that, I'm going to go out there and whip everybody's ass once everybody gets back. With all this. See, this is somebody that just simply won't ever like her. And I'm sorry, I don't care what the hell happens. The fact that we have some merit and some earning, and somebody of that level is talking about needing to get better and earn it with all the incredible Taylor Swift-like popularity, she's going to have my admiration forever. I don't care if she knocks down jump shots or layups or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I love it. So I'm assuming Pat says Caitlyn Clark was probably coached by her parents or management. I'll stop right there. If that's the case, then more people need to be coached by her parents and management, because we have far too many jackasses out there. So get them a company right now to make sure they can script out some words that will get people like me on board with it. She's not as sugar nice as you think. Big trash talker. Who the hell cares? She's a big trash talker. What are we going to do? What does that have a damn thing to do with earning things on merit, which she has done through college? And it's okay if she hasn't earned that yet in the WNBA. How does that have a damn thing to do with trash talking at Iowa? Some people will never be won over. That's hilarious. Well, she's a trash talker. Whoa, no, really? Okay. Well, whatever. I hope that maybe I'm fooled. Maybe I'm completely fooled. I hope I am. Because I absolutely love what you have to say. And I absolutely hate how this is being taken 90 different directions from idiots that don't know any better. From those poaching the story to turn it into something that it shouldn't be and never was going to be. Until you get national level Nimrods get a hold of this and just absolutely bury it with stupidity. I love what she had to say about it. All right, who we got top of the hour? Sidery's going to be here. Danny Hurley's going back to UConn. Hell, I don't know if that's a victory for college basketball. I can tell you this. I haven't had very many victories at Indiana State. You guys see Mitch Hannes bailing for South Florida, and really more power to him. It is Tampa over Terre Haute, and I love Paradise. You get to go where you're going to be able to do this year-round. You're not going to have to jack with playing Bradley in Peoria, Illinois in March, and it's 28 degrees. For those of you asking, I have no idea if that had anything to do with last year and them deciding to give the super regional to TCU. You remember how all that went down. I will tell you this. I'm excited that the president at least is bailing here in July. That'll be a good thing. But you talk about everything in the past couple of years that has, built their product and helped provide with success some recognition. It's all gone. It is all gone, and you leave some tremendous shoes to fill in the wake. But no, that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, just like the whole basketball thing didn't. I was talking to a bunch of people because Indiana State last year got notoriety, and they were fun to watch, so people kind of want to know how all that happens. And, again, if you listen to the show, I told you that all that was going to happen. There was no happy ending. There wasn't going to be. And more often than not, mid-majors like that, they're going to get picked clean. And this is where we're going in this era of NIL and transfer portal. And like me, you either have to get with it and watch it and say, hey, it's still basketball, or you can get pissy and go someplace else. But that is what it's going to be like. Yeah, asking me if the Reds are getting hot right now. They lost yesterday, but yeah, I guess recently it has been better than it was. They just, I think, need to play the Cubs all the time. Other than yesterday. And maybe all the time. I can't believe I spent that much time at the outset, and all I get in return is she's a trash talker. What the hell's wrong with you? All right, Charles is at 239-1070. Hello, Charles.
How you doing, man?
Charles, I'm great.
Hey, just real quick, I'm with you about 90% because you asked earlier. You bear with me. I think her initial reaction that you said the coach leaked out was probably the first reaction, and then it matures over the weekend with, they woke up by the monster. I think if I'm sitting there like her, I'm thinking, well, who else? When she first gets the call and they tell her she's not on the team, she's probably thinking, well, who else has had a better year? Because it used to be you just pick the best 12 American basketball players. They were mostly college players, right? And then she's thinking, well, who else has had a better year than me? No Americans had a better year than me in playing basketball, period. And then I think over the weekend she thinks, well, if looking at the list, the 12 ladies that made it, the youngest is 20, oldest is the youngest is 26. They've had 3 years in the league. So she's like, okay, by that criteria, then it's cool. I'm cool with it. But I think initially she's thinking, I've had a great year, had the best American year of basketball probably in the last 2 years, really. And then once she sees the criteria and realizes, okay, there's a couple of girls that have played a couple of years and they aren't on the list. So I think she really just thought about it and said, like you said, she's going to earn it. I'll wait for it. But since they picked girls 26 and older who had 3 years, then by that list, I'm not on that list, and that's cool. I'll get off the air.
Charles, thank you for the call. I also think about it from this standpoint. I thought it was lame. If it's true, and I guess you don't know it was report, but if it was true that they didn't add her because they didn't want to have to deal with everybody getting mad that she wasn't getting playing time or, put her in the game to get her shots, or if she wasn't out there, they didn't want to have to mess with that. I think that's lame. However, there was no winning this if you did not put her on the team. And I think part of the argument is, and I can get it, I've watched most of these games so far. I mean, hell, I was a bandwagon jumper. It's like everybody else was watching the tail end of the season and, soaking up the legend that she had become collegiately at Iowa. But she hasn't looked like a top 12 player to me in the WNBA so far. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And to further the fact, she doesn't want to be a sideshow, and I admire it. There's nothing wrong if you're not top 12 right now. The team's been awful around you. Nothing wrong with that at all. But it is going to be damned if you do, damned if you don't, because nobody is going to at all, I shouldn't say nobody, but certainly a large portion of the United States are going to be rooting against the women and trying to find everything wrong with the women and why they shouldn't be on it and why she should, when she's one of the few, and it's her, that steps up and says, hey, you know what, if I'm not ready, I'm not ready. I'll take some time off, I'll rest, I'll get back and focus in on the fever. And getting back to what Christy Sides had to say, maybe that was her initial reaction, but if Caitlyn Clark didn't tell her to go and send that out in the media, I don't know why she did. It is incredible what this young woman has had to deal with so far. Coming from every conceivable angle. Unlike anybody that's ever, I mean, for the most part, been a number one pick, been anything in that league. I still don't know why your coach would want to add to it, would want to fan the flames. It's funny. I'd be okay if she were on the team, but I'm not outraged that she isn't. And I am incredibly impressed that she doesn't want to end up being the sideshow. I love Lance Stevenson. I didn't want him to come back just because you guys liked watching him do his guitar thing. If it was legit and he could add to it, yes, but if it was going to be something that needed a big top and a tent and you'd have to pay 25 cents to get into to watch it, this is the Jerry Springer Show era in which, unfortunately, we all live. That's where we are right now. That's what a lot of this is. And believe me, now more than ever, it just absolutely comes at you. And for people that say, well, she was clearly coached by her dad, or I don't care who she was coached by. I am just happy to hear the words. You want to earn it. You want to be selected on merit. Going to be going through the same thing with Bronny James here pretty soon, too. Get ready for that. I don't know if we will around here, but that's going to be continue the national story. All right, so does he earn this, or just doing his 40-year-old dad, the face of the Laker franchise, a solid here? If I were him, people thought I could play at that level, and I was necessary, yes. You just want to be that person to bring eyeballs to the TV, I would say no. So I do admire what she had to say. Sidery, top of the hour, did you say? Stephen Holder coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll do some Colts stuff coming up a little bit later on. We actually talked to Rick Venturi about that on Friday. I hope you didn't miss any of it. And the reasons why some stood out and reasons why you still have concern. And I will say this, he didn't buy what I'd been selling about it being necessary to bring in a veteran safety. He actually downplayed that in a fashion in which I think I was a bit unexpected of it. Rick Ventura, if you missed any of it, that podcast is at 1075thefan.com. Stephen Holder of ESPN, 5 o'clock hour. Evan Sidery, national NBA writer, top of the hour. Danny Hurley decides to stay in Storrs, Connecticut. The Lakers are still on a lookout for their next head coach. And, of course, the NBA Finals going on. And what may make up the offseason for the Pacers? Sidery coming up at the top of the hour. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Tired of using your Indy summer to paint year after year? Then do what Deanna did. She called Rhino Shield.
I was noticing some cracks and the paint's faded. I was like, okay, I think I should get my house painted. So my neighbor had a Rhino Shield placard in the yard. And after they were finished, I was just, wow. With the warranty and everything, it just seemed silly not to go that route.
Ride with JMV.
And the beat goes on, yeah. And the beat goes on.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. It's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there. And I think it's just a little more motivation. You remember that. And hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there.
We talked actually on the bus. She got the call on the bus, and she texted me to let me know. And, I just tried to keep her spirits. I mean, the thing she said was, "Hey, Coach, they woke a monster," which I thought was awesome.
All right, Caitlyn Clark and Christy Sides, player and coach right there, regarding the latest soap opera going on, and not of their creation, mind you. So was that dribbling of the basketball, or was that jump shots being taken and missed right there?
I'm going to go with dribbling.
Okay, dribbling. It was dribbling officially. Nah, I love the Caitlyn Clark aspect of it. I don't know. Maybe this was Caitlyn Clark that's okay with it, but if I'm the head coach, I would not have said that. It's like you want this to hopefully one of these days soon not be so consistent and die down, and then you add that, and that's it's funny. They have definitely developed some heels. And not the foot activewear, but heels in terms of wrestling heels in the WNBA. That part is interesting to me. But I love the response, and it is fun. The national response is hilarious, but you knew that was coming. Hey, give me Benny on line 2 at 239-1070. Hello, Benny. How are you?
Hey, JMV. How you doing today?
Benny, I'm outstanding. Thanks for asking.
Well, I'm been out here detailing, cleaning my car, and listening to you the whole time. And
I need to detail mine too. Good idea. Yes.
It's fun, ain't it?
Yeah. It's a hell of a blast. Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Tedious. There's not many more things more tedious than doing that.
I've been listening to you the whole time, and you're doing a fantastic job with Caitlyn Clark. And there's two things. I mean, I watched her interview about how she's getting roughed around and everything, and how she handled herself. And then watching about the Olympics, how she handled herself. But one thing I just want to make a comment on is where did she get it from? She got it from her mom and dad, how she was raised to handle those situations. Yes, I know her dad was a coach and everything, but just listening to her and everything, she got that from her mom and dad. So there needs to be some credit given to them.
I will give anybody credit around her, because there is one of the more difficult situations we've seen anybody be in. And thank you, Benny, for the call. Would be that one right there. And to handle all this with the incredible amount of poise and grace in which she has is absolutely amazing to me. It's more amazing than a 35-foot step-back jumper that's true. And I said this on the outset, I like her more now because of that. This is all too, and it's unfortunate, unfamiliar territory that we're in on this. I love that aspect of it. I do. Does not want to be a sideshow, wants to earn it on her merit. I think everybody should absolutely love that. Evan Sidery, other side, national NBA writer Stephen Holder, 5 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Everyone's talking about Galaxy Concrete Coatings and their trans...
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So, Dan Hurley's going back to UConn, and the Laker gig is still wide open. J.J. Redick now? We shall see. Evan Sidery will talk about that and a lot more coming up in just a second. Evan Sidery, national NBA writer. And should be a hell of a time with Evan coming up here in just a bit, too. Yeah, that was a great story. I didn't mind either way, and here's why. I know everybody made a lot out of his personality never being able to mesh because you just don't have personalities like that any longer in the NBA. But the one thing to me that would mesh would be his idea of offense. And who's to say that dude couldn't learn? Maybe they could learn from him. Yeah, I didn't mind the so-called personality conflicts as much as I thought about how much I did enjoy, even in that beatdown of the Boilers in the national title game. Their offense is as fun as hell to watch. So, hell yeah, I think that could work. I think that could work, just like Brad Stevens worked initially in Boston. Hey, by the way, last night, how many pushes in the back are you allowed before it's called? I'm not just talking about, that P.J. Washington attempted dunk that would have brought that game back to a single possession. But I think Lively got pushed in the back on a dunk that he actually made. And if it were me, I think I remember a couple of different times, didn't in that series against the Pacers, Jaylen Brown have a couple of pushes in the back? One of note on that inbound in game number 1. He is like the king. He may end up being the most valuable player in the NBA Finals, but he is certainly the most valuable player to always push somebody in the back and not get called for it. He's a back pusher. For real. I did not know this. Thank you, Damon Dobbs, who I saw on Saturday, came down to Bloomington. Thank you all that came down there, too. It was great to see a lot of you. 25 years ago, is it 25 years ago when Bobby Valentine got ejected and then got back in the Mets dugout as their manager with a fake mustache and sunglasses? That's awesome. JMV, are you really a captain now? Yes, I passed a short test. I did that yesterday. I thought I did pretty well. See, I was going to put it this way, and you guys are all going to giggle. I thought I did pretty well motorboating, and we had a motorboat. Good job. So if you need me as captain, I can do it. Thank you, Damon, for that. Jamie, the Celtics are good, but also called for no fouls in the fourth quarter. Jaylen Brown is constant with the push in the back and never gets called. It's amazing. Yeah, I don't care otherwise. Yeah, you're asking me about Caitlyn Clark, and I gave her, if you heard the first hour, all the credit in the world in the way that she has handled this. But I will also tell you in the NBA right now, and I'm sure we could have this debate, I don't think she's top 12 in the WNBA right now. I just don't. There's nothing wrong with that either. Working your way into it. Now, she is number 1 by the longest of shots in terms of recognition, eyeballs on, polarization, all of that. But the fact that she simply does not want to be a sideshow and she wants to earn this on merit, I like her even more today than I did going into the weekend before all this happened again. You know, the whole Caitlyn Clark story, the sequel to the sequel. And then you had the third one was in 3D, and then the fourth one is the final chapter. And then the fifth one's the new beginning. Yes, this is going to go on longer than the Friday the 13th saga. True story. All right. 239-1070 if you guys want to jump back on here. I got time for you. National NBA writer Evan Sidery, he joins us right now. Hello, Sidery. How are you?
Doing great, John. How about you?
I, for one, may be the only one, and that's not unusual. I thought that a Dan Hurley NBA offense, what he accomplished with a lot of really good players in UConn, I thought that was transferable even if most felt his personality wasn't.
Oh, certainly so, yeah. X's and O's and tactical-wise, like, there's not many better basketball coaches right now in the world of basketball than Dan Hurley. And you're seeing exactly why he went back to UConn. He's going to be able to get a lifetime contract there, make probably $12, $15 million a year. And it was really great leverage by Hurley to do this. But also I think the Lakers kind of fumbled that, not giving him an substantial amount of money. I originally thought it would be way more than the original offer of $70 million over 6 years. But instead of going higher than that, they decided to pivot and go a different direction. So I think it's all interesting, but especially Dan Hurley, John, for sure. He's a guy to me where if it's not the Lakers, in a couple of years from now, I imagine he'll probably eventually take that jump somewhere.
Yeah. I thought if there was a jump to make, much like Brad Stevens did on a huge surprise year ago around here, when you go to a historic program or organization in this case, like Boston, like the Lakers, I think it can be different. However, this Laker thing that may happen if LeBron James is still going to be the face of your franchise, and you're Rob Pelinka, and you kind of now get hosed into having to draft his son to the benefit of his 40-year-old face of the franchise father. I don't think that would be a good situation to walk into for anybody, much less Dan Hurley. So I'd start right there with reasons why maybe if that's the case, you would not want to go into it at this particular moment.
Yeah, totally. And I think this is certainly a win-now situation with the Lakers. And a guy like Dan Hurley, I know it's a different situation a little bit with Brad Stevens, but the Celtics were at a time when Brad joined them when they weren't really a championship-level contender. They were kind of on the upswing from a rebuild, and he helped them kind of get back to the point they are now. I think Dan Hurley needs a situation like that where there's not immense pressure right away in the NBA, because for any college coach, it's going to be a huge adjustment going to the NBA, handling personalities like guys like LeBron making $250 million, all these guys making so much money. It'll be very different to kind of institute the same fundamentals, the same kind of in-your-face attitude that Dan Hurley has at Connecticut over to professional athletes like that, which is, I think, was kind of my drawback to it just a little bit. I think he's probably more in the range of eventually, just throwing a name out there, like the Detroit Pistons. I think that'd be like a great situation for like a Dan Hurley type of coach, because he needs long-term stability, 5-6 years to build a program there as far as instituting real culture. I think that's kind of what he needs, not something that's going to be win now or else you're fired in a couple of years.
I don't think you're ever going to find that though, buddy. I don't.
True.
I think that era of what you're talking about at that level is long gone.
Yeah, I mean, if you see, especially nowadays, turnover in the NBA, there really is not a lot of patience. I think that's really the name of the game in anything nowadays. It's really lack of patience a lot of places, and especially in the NBA, you want to win right there and now. So I think, honestly, John, if Hurley didn't jump at the Lakers, like you said, it's one of the most historic brands in the NBA, I'd be stunned if he hasn't just signed a lifetime deal at UConn. Why would he leave at this point?
Now, the big question is, Evan Sidery joins us. What does Rob Pelinka end up doing with this situation now that he's been turned down? That is certainly out there. Do you go back to the podcaster? You go to J.J. Redick? Do you, go to one of these Kenny Atkinson names that are always in the old rumor mill this time of year, seemingly a Borrego type of guy? Where do you go if you're Pelinka?
Yeah, it sounds like the reports are they're going to be looking back to two guys in James Borrego and J.J. Redick. I would personally lean Redick just based off I know it's very inexperienced. That'd be a huge pivot to go from Dan Hurley to J.J. Redick. But what do the Lakers have to lose at this point? It's already an egg in their face with what happened today with Dan Hurley. And it's going to be awkward however they want to slice it, whether J.J. Redick or James Borrego or someone else, and say, hey, we were chasing you for a couple of weeks until we thought Dan Hurley was available. We're going to settle on you now as our head coach of the future. And you have to imagine it doesn't really give you a lot of stability or long-term security if you're a Redick or a Borrego, for example, if you're going to enter into this situation. So I think it's a bad look all around for the Lakers not to close that deal with Dan Hurley, because now you're left scrambling, and also you made it a little bit awkward potentially your new future head coach.
How many people can you remember that turned down the Lakers gig?
Ooh, yeah. I think Monty Williams did back in
Did he really?
2019. Yeah, he chose the Suns over the Lakers.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because which is a surprise back then because the Suns were not good at all. But he wanted to build a program. He wanted stability, and it's kind of the image now, I guess, even dating back 5 years ago. But LeBron and these win now Lakers, for any coach out there, I think it's just a recipe for disaster if things don't go well quickly there.
Yeah, it is not. There's no way. You might look at Frank Vogel. COVID year, you end up winning, and it didn't go well after that. I mean, Darvin Ham had like a minute, and that didn't go well. And it's not like you have a great team. You got the whole family proposition I mentioned a little bit earlier with Bronny and LeBron, as that could be, something you'll have to deal with. But you also have a roster which I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, Evan, like unsettled. And I know it's the Lakers and you can always pull stuff off, but look out west and they seem pretty far down in the pecking order to me.
Yeah, they're probably right in the middle of the pack, honestly, right now, probably in that 5 to 7 range in the West. And that's just based off if LeBron can stay how he is right now, entering into his 40s. And same with Anthony Davis, who's been very unreliable as far as injuries go throughout his career. And then you see their lack of assets. I know that they're going to have future picks in 2031, 2029 that can trade this offseason. But how appealing is that to future teams potentially in a trade for like a Donovan Mitchell or a Trae Young? And the Lakers' tax around the league, John, is really real. I mean, the Lakers really do get squeezed out of a lot of deals because a lot of teams don't want to work with them. And I think it's going to be really difficult with them this summer with their assets, with their lack of flexibility, is how are you going to play a potential star championship team around those two players? And unless they go out and get a star player like a Trae Young or Donovan Mitchell, which I doubt at this point, they're kind of stuck where they are, which is not a good position for them to be.
It's Evan Sidery, National NBA Writers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. So what do you think's up the sleeve of the Pacers this offseason?
It might be a boring answer I'm about to give you, but I think they're just going to develop the young guys and run it back. That's just the sense I'm getting, and that's not reporting or anything, just my personal opinion there, just because I just don't think there's much out there as far as a game-changer impact kind of player that they can go out and realistically get right now. I mentioned before with you Mikal Bridges with Brooklyn. It sounds like they still don't want to trade Mikal Bridges, even though they should really pivot towards a rebuild. That's the one guy I look at where if he does become available, you can go out and get him. I'd be willing to offer up a Mathurin, for example, in that kind of trade because he's really the one missing piece is that elite scoring wing who can hit 40% from three, who can guard the team's best defender on the wing, and that's Mikal Bridges. And I think he really does check a lot of boxes. He's good for Tyrese Halliburton as well. But outside of Mikal Bridges, if he does become available, John, I don't really think there's much out there for them to really risk changing the roster around. They have a really good thing going. They have a really deep roster, a really young one still at that. And I think next year you kind of just bank on, let's see if Mathurin takes a jump next year in year 3. I think next year you have to see Jarris Walker hit the rotation. He has to play at least 15, 20 minutes per game, in my opinion, to really get some development going. You see how those two guys go. See if Andrew Nembhard takes another big leap. I think that was a really eye-opening thing for the Pacers was Nembhard's postseason performance. I think they're going to try to see if there's more there on the offensive end with Nembhard. So I think they're just going to run it back here unless something really shocking becomes available that really checks a lot of boxes, like a Mikal Bridges type. But you got to just let Mathurin, let Jarris Walker, let Nembhard, all these young guys kind of develop and see where they go from there.
I think the only thing to most people around here, you talk about, quote, checking the boxes. I think the only thing that would, to most, would be a combo better big man rebounder and also pick and pop and roll to the basket guy. And, good luck with that. I think to get better rebounding, I guess what I'm saying here, if you want to get better, universally speaking, you're going to have to do it with this group and team-wise, because to me, I think you're going through another year with Miles. They liked what they saw, and I think it's more about the offense, certainly, that he offers. They're not as worried about what they believe they give up, certainly not defensively, but rebounding-wise. I just think it would be detrimental to their offense and the entire program if you think about or initiate some type of deal for Miles in the offseason. I don't think it happens.
No, yeah. I think Miles at this point is untouchable in any deal. I think it'll be really interesting next summer. I know Chad Buchanan mentioned with you a week or two ago about they can't extend them. They're not legally allowed to after his renegotiation and extension. So he'll officially hit the market next summer. That's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. But I think Miles has really proven himself these last couple of years with Tyrese Halliburton as a long-term piece. And on the rebounding front, I totally agree with you there. A couple of names I'd watch out for, not as sourced or anything like that, but potential fits that really check the rebounding box. that will be free agents. Andre Drummond, he's been a long-time veteran. I know a lot of Pacers fans know him probably from his Pistons days. One of the best rebounders in the NBA, probably won't cost you more than $4 or $5 million. And then Kevon Looney from the Warriors. It was reported today that he's going to likely be released by the Warriors. He's one of the best rebounders in the NBA. He'd be a great backup big option, too. So those are kind of on the margins moves that kind of fit what you're looking for there.
So Evan Sidery with us. So Obi Toppin, they run back with Obi as a restricted guy that just comes back too.
Yeah, I think so. I think the best course of action, if you can get Obi Toppin locked in on a, let's say, like a 3 or 4 year deal, making around $12 to $14 million, I think that makes a lot of sense for them because that's a really tradable contract down the road. But he also really fits this roster. I think Jarris Walker long-term, I think the answer to the question with Obi Toppin is how do Walker and Toppin fit together. I think Walker's more of a small forward now than he is a power forward. So I think having Obi Toppin in their system, he thrived at the 4. He's playing some small ball 5 in the playoffs too. I think he really fits what they're doing. So I would not be stunned at all if they brought back Obi Toppin on a long-term deal. But if not, even on the qualifying offer, I believe it's around $9 million next year. That's more than worth the price submission for Obi Toppin there. So I'd be stunned at this point if not back.
Hey, Evan, we went through this with Trace Jackson Davis around here a year ago, and ultimately he ended up at a place that just best benefited his entire skill set, the package that he offers right now at the NBA level. It was perfect in Golden State. Is there such a landing spot for Zach Edey in the NBA?
I think there's a lot, to be quite honest.
What would be the best? I'm assuming playmaking guard combination somehow, some way. What would be the best?
I think something along the lines of getting him an elite point guard would do wonders for him. Maybe like we were just talking about the Lakers being in a bad situation, but that would honestly be a really good fit for a Zach Edey type of guy to go play with LeBron, play with Anthony Davis, be that guy off the bench who can be sort of like their Ivica Zubats they used to have that they lost to the Clippers a couple years ago. I think that'd make a lot of sense. Miami, I think, makes a lot of sense, too. I think putting him with star-level players and letting him kind of do his thing off the bench is really what's going to be unique about Zach Edey. I think, to be quite honest, John, we've seen Edey dominate the last 4 or 5 years in college. And I think Edey, he's shown he's 25-point-per-game scorer, 12, 13 rebounds a game, couple blocks. He's a guy to me I don't really see failing on the NBA level. That might be kind of a hot take to some people, but he's a really good backup center in my mind in the NBA. He's a guy that can play 15, 20 minutes off the bench, give you some good offense, give you some good defense. It's hard for me to see Edey fail, and I think, honestly, he would fit in probably a lot of places, probably 10 or more, in my opinion.
It's Evan Sidery with us to the whole Caitlyn Clark soap opera / saga, not of her doing whatsoever. I saw where Shams had mentioned that she's, I think, one of 2 alternates for Team USA if there is a replacement needed. You think that ends up happening?
That's such a tough call. It would have to happen based off of injury to someone this year in the WNBA. We'll see what happens there. But you see the star power Caitlyn Clark brings to the WNBA. You see everyone in the national sports world now talks about Caitlyn Clark and the Fever on a daily basis. It would bring obviously more eyes to their product for the Olympics. I think that might be a really good idea for them. But as far as the WNBA goes, you see how loaded that roster is, though, John. All these future Hall of Fame women that are in the WNBA. And I think that kind of Caitlyn Clark has to earn her way just a little bit. I think that might be kind of their thinking. Me personally, I would put.
I love it too. I think that's the road that she took, the path that she's taken, and what she said, and I admire that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's probably the right move here is to let her earn it and see what happens. But if my personal opinion, if I was picking the roster, I think Caitlyn Clark's already a top 12, top 10 player in the WNBA. I would have put on the roster, but we'll see what happens. I imagine unless there's an injury, I doubt she probably makes it, honestly, out on the official roster.
Yeah, and you and I disagree on that. And watching her so far, and again, I'm no huge WNBA expert at all, but I don't think right now she is top 12. I don't think, and I'm going by her game so far with the WNBA and the Fever. I'm also factoring Evan in. Her team around her has been pretty terrible so far. Also recognizing that the schedule has been incredibly difficult, but I also think with the statements that she made this weekend, she understands that, and I love the fact that somebody that just could get the entire world on her side, that everything is screwed up and I need to be there, to turn her into what she doesn't want to be, a sideshow, is talking about having time and earning it and what matters to her right now. And people have been bringing up to me, well, this is clearly coached, and her dad was – I don't care what it is. If it's coached and it's learned and that is the path she has chosen, she has me for an even larger fan now, because oftentimes that is few and far between with that particular sports attitude.
Yeah, and especially like you mentioned nowadays, a lot of athletes are coddled. They're kind of in the opinion of quote-unquote being soft in today's world. But as you mentioned, Caitlyn Clark's comments and just how she's carried herself all throughout her career at Iowa, and even now with the Fever these last couple months, I've been blown away just by how she's carried really the whole weight of the world on her shoulders at some moments. It feels like every single eye is on her in this sport and in the world of basketball. And I think it's just been awesome to see not only Caitlyn Clark and the way she's kind of handled herself, but also just the city of Indianapolis embracing Caitlyn Clark. It's been really cool to see.
No, I like her even more because of that. Not even because of a made jump shot. It's just I like that attitude is one that is refreshing. And it was said to me a little bit earlier today that she has handled all of this stuff around her better than most have handled it. And I think that says a lot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show you, I mean, Caitlyn Clark's really been as advertised so far, and I can't wait to see what happens with the rest of her career.
No doubt about it. All right, hey, quickly before I let you go, you got 2 zip best-of-7 NBA finals. What do you think so far?
I originally said Mavs in 7. I'm going to stick to my guns here and stick with Mavs in 7, which is very scary after the first couple of games and how they played. But I think they win Game 3. I think it'll be a very close Game 4 that they win, and we'll go back to Boston tied up 2-2. But that's a very risky one I'm taking there.
Yeah, especially now being down 0-2. Luka's been awesome. Listen, you can't do anything if Kyrie Irving is going to have games like that. And then you look at that Holiday and what he has done defensively has been absolutely incredible. Everybody needs that.
Yeah, that's the kind of guy, if you're looking for a Pacers dream target that ever became available, like a Drew Holiday type is exactly what this team needs. That's really, he checks all the boxes there.
It's funny. He was asked, if he minds not being described as a superstar, and he's somebody else that says all the right things, and you can get behind that particular attitude, which, again, is not robust in this era of basketball. He's somebody else, like we were talking about with Caitlyn Clark, that, when they're talking, and they just talk about wanting to play and wanting to fit in and wanting to be the best for their team. Again, it's few and far between in this era right now. It's very refreshing to hear.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Drew Holiday is, again, one of those kind of guys that I think every team in the NBA, if he wanted to become available, every team would be willing to call and give him a lot.
1,000 times better it worked out. Did it not? Worked out better, certainly with Boston, and then obviously Milwaukee getting Damian Lillard. Think they'd want to do over to that?
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, if you told Milwaukee this now, I mean, Drew Holiday has been kind of the swing piece for him. I mean, who knows if Giannis and Lillard, if they were healthy for that first-round series, what happens there. But
right.
I mean, stylistically, Drew fit Giannis like a glove. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch.
And you know what? And to, I guess, not prove my point in this case, Boston was ready-made for that piece. And you could tell that Milwaukee was still trying to figure out, that piece and what else could go. Or they felt maybe the 2 superstars as opposed to, Boston's got 2 superstars and then a couple of stars if you want to go ahead and add Porzingis into that equation too. Hey, by the way, too, regarding his availability, how's that affect this series moving forward if, like the Pacers series, Porzingis isn't out there?
Yeah, I think if Porzingis doesn't play, it will impact, because we saw in the first game, I mean, that first quarter he had was electric, going back both possessions. He was dominant on defense, dominant scoring the ball. He changes everything for Boston. And like you mentioned, I don't think Brad Stevens gets enough credit nationally for how he built this roster out for Boston. I know they drafted Tatum, drafted Brown, but you go out and put Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis as your 4th and 5th best players on usually a lot of rosters, probably 20-plus. They'd be the first, second best guys on most teams. That's just incredible what they've done. So it's just an embarrassment of riches they have.
Hey, one final thing with Evan Sidery. So when might we see an expansion in the NBA? Is that's something that is quickly forthcoming, and will Seattle be on the top of that list for that return of the NBA to that market?
Yeah, it's been talked about a little bit here and there the last couple of years. It's really started to pick up steam really in the last year or so. I'd be stunned with especially the new media rights deal just got signed last week. That's a $76 billion deal for the NBA. I think it's well worth the investment. And I think all signs point towards the NBA getting 2 more teams probably in the door by the end of the decade, 2030. I'd say Vegas and Seattle are probably the 2 teams you hear all the time really about getting that new team. And then that'll probably push either the Pelicans or the Grizzlies probably to the Eastern Conference would be cool.
So when obviously TNT's got 1 more year and then they're done with their coverage in the NBA, does NBC reemerging now? And obviously that was a product around here we love because that also coincided with the Pacers becoming a viable competitive team at the NBA level in the 90s. Does that take away at all the sting of the loss? Because I did love TNT's coverage.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, TNT, inside the NBA, now you see how the reaction was from NBA fans when they heard that this would be the last season coming up for them. It really has become one of those shows a lot of basketball fans just enjoy watching. But I like you mentioned, I think it'll be cool to have a little bit of a change up here, go to NBC. I'll be interested to see what Amazon does with their involvement now into this process. And I think also, too, I'd be stunned if one of these networks don't pick up that crew with inside the NBA, whether it be TNT somehow finagles their way back into it, or you see like an Amazon or some other company go out and keep those guys and sign them because they're cash cows. I mean, they make a lot of money, and I don't see why they shouldn't continue to make a lot of money.
All right, what are you writing about in closing?
Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about and writing about just really what's happening all throughout the NBA, just the latest news, rumors, be covering the NBA draft in a market, I believe, in the next couple of weeks as well. I'll be traveling here soon. So be a lot of fun here. These next about 4 to 6 weeks, John, it's the best time of the year for a lot of NBA fans. All the news could be coming through, so it's exciting time.
Forbes Sports is where you can find it, but also you get a new gig, right? Can you talk about it yet or not?
Not officially just yet,
Okay.
but I will be able to very soon.
All right, very soon. We'll just keep you at Forbes Sports right now and then have at it. Evan, appreciate you.
Absolutely, John. Anytime. Thank you.
Evan Sidery, national NBA writer. Forbes Sports right now, but forthcoming in a brand new gig and has been very good to this show and others here on this station for being a part, talking a lot of NBA with us. Where is the best spot for Zach Edey? And there's some of you out there going to say, it doesn't matter. But where is the best spot in the NBA on a team for Zach Edey? And remember, we went through this a year ago with Trace Jackson Davis and the whole Pacer saga. Everybody got mad, and I tried to, chill out. This is going to work out fantastically for Trace. And what happened, it did. So you got to listen to me. It did. It worked out great. It could not have worked out better for him. So where is that spot for Zach Edey? I guess you can tell me if you don't believe there is one, but if you do, where is that? I mentioned a team that has, I think I said plural, playmaking guards. Where is that spot? All right, other side, we'll talk about that as well as, again, a tip of the cap to Evansville. They got one on Saturday, but ultimately lose in the Super Regional down in Knoxville to Tennessee. So the number 1 Volunteers advanced to Omaha. And, up until Game 3, incredibly competitive series. Game 3 last night, unfortunately, was not. 12-1 was the final. But a team that saw their moment, took advantage of that moment. I'm very happy. And the continued whittling away of things that performed incredibly well in Terre Haute, Indiana. They thought when they lost me in 1993 that was going to be enough, but no, wait. I'll tell you, these past 4+ months have been, actually 3 months if you want to get right down to it, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's good to be able to celebrate, right? Good to be able to celebrate and soak up what the basketball program and the past 2 years with the baseball program ended up accomplishing. But if you're Indiana State, if you're a mid-major, you're ultimately going to have to pay the price. There you go. And we'll also give you an update on the Edmonton Flasher coming up here in just a bit. The Stanley Cup final underway again tonight. Quick break, we'll come back. Got a 4-pack to the swimming qualifier, the trials going on at Lucas Oil Stadium coming up. Got that for you and a lot more. Stephen Holder, top of the hour. Stay right there. It's 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
A quick question for dads.
There's been a little problem in the cockpit.
The cockpit? What is it?
It's the little room in the front of the plane where the pilots sit. But that's not important right now.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Sidery on a podcast, 1075thefan.com. James over there. I'm John. Friday's going to be another deck tour stop. Mucky Duck with Deep Eddy Vodka coming up on Friday. Hope to see you there. What a great crowd we had at Morris Reservoir, Noblesville on Friday, including Rick Venturi, which was outstanding. Outstanding it was. And we'll do it again on the south side. Mucky Duck, that's coming up on Friday. JMV, I'd love to see Edey back up the Joker in Denver. Learn a lot. Another athletically limited, highly skilled big man. Get some updates on the Edmonton Flasher I haven't seen. I didn't notice. And Stanley Cup final back with it tonight. I don't know if there's been much of an update, to be honest with you. Maybe nothing. Yeah, everybody says Denver for Edey so far. James, you got an update?
The only thing I'm seeing is apparently porn sites are trying to track down who the Edmonton Flasher was.
That's all I get with this whole thing with X is like porn bots. Every time I send something out, and I don't think that really says much about me. It seems like anytime I send something out, I end up getting like 4 or 5, like Gia or Natalie. Wine lover seeking someone to share cozy nights with. Join now.
You got a lot of hot singles in your area, John?
It's from Natalie right there. Natalie digs her some JMV, evidently. Natalie is some big, fat, hairy dude from Europe, probably. Helen says, flirtatious babe seeking exciting connections. Check out my profile. Helen. This is like within the last hour. Gia is seeking adventurous connections. Okay. Hey, JMV, I think Caitlyn Clark is so good with the press. Incredible poise. Can you imagine having to deal with all this junk? And stuff that you didn't start, like crap that other people started. I'm telling you, whenever the news people get a hold of this, and I don't care what we're talking about, Fox, CNN, all of it. You know, all these national shows where they yip-yap for 3 hours, complain for 3 hours and make your life miserable or feel as if it's even more miserable than it actually is right now. All these, like, take full advantage of it and just turn it into something so stupid. Unlike me, where Rebecca says, my hot photo and video. See, where's all this? Why does all this happen here? Is it just me? Am I the target of this porn hub? JMV, I'm hearing Blake's graduation party was pretty much a combo of Fast Times, Old School, and Animal House's toga party. Care to comment? Nah, man, I was serving everybody. And I was trying to make sure that those that came and I was making, said, there's G over there. My mom is right over there. There she is. Here are the really good topics to bring up to my mom over there. Bring up Obi Toppin, and she'll love it. But nah, hell was a good time. Then I went out yesterday and got a quick boater's license and took everybody out on the boat on Lake Monroe. Hey, by the way, shout out to the Four Winds. I love the Four Winds. Love it. The Windjammer Lounge Bar and Grill. Good times. This is how weak, Jim, I think I am any longer. And I had a lot of the friends in which I grew up with down there. I think I was in bed by 12:30. What in the hell has happened to me? 12:30. JMV, I tuned in on Saturday to hear the JMV takeover, and it wasn't there. What happened? I took the day off for Blake's graduation party down where we grew up, or I grew up, I should say, so his grandparents could go. Certainly at the top of the list. And I did not do the JMV takeover. And I did miss it, though. But we'll be back coming up on Saturday and ready to rock again. That was the first time in 4 years. First time in 4 years of me consistently doing it, and it really started every Saturday during COVID. I think actually every Saturday during COVID, we started in April. Every Saturday night, and we started in April of 2020. And while I'd changed some days around from Saturday to Friday, I had never, outside of the whole Christmas music window, I've never missed one. And I took the night off. Harper is hoping to find my lucky charm and forever bug. It is like everything somebody sends me. That's what it is. Absolutely incredible. Danny Hurley is not going to the Lakers. He's staying at UConn. I saw Eddie Johnson, the former NBA player. In fact, we talked to Eddie back during All-Star Weekend, said that Danny Hurley didn't want the pressure. I don't know if it's the pressure. He probably didn't want to deal with what was sure to be jackassery. He doesn't look like a guy that he may, toss it out there. He may create it, but I don't think he's the guy that wants to deal with it. I think there's a difference there. I don't know if he wants the pressure, and I don't blame anybody that wants to be comfortable in their gig. Now, you're not going to get completely comfortable because then you take things for granted, but he's a guy that is from the East Coast that's got something special going right now. So why do you need the added headaches? And evidently he doesn't like the NIL, the transfer portal. But even with that, he has apparently utilized it to a point where it's worked out greatly for him, all of it. And there are always question marks regarding schools that don't have a robust football program. And that's certainly UConn, but he's proven everybody wrong with going back-to-back right now. Why would you want to mess with the whole Laker thing? But you're going to get 2 years, and you got to go father and son. And this is not like the Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. father and son combination here. You don't have to mess with that. What about the roster? So, yeah, I don't think it was not wanting the pressure of it. I would suggest it's somebody that knows jackassery very well that doesn't want to mess with that. And I don't think any of us would blame that. Anybody blame him for that? You guys don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Why would any of us want to do it? Just me. Stephen Holder, top of the hour. The mandatory mini camp, what he took away from that. Rick Venturi was with us on Friday up at Morse Reservoir with Deep Eddy Vodka. We were at Wolfie's and was great at answering the questions we had and then others that called in. And, really one of the larger opinions out there is what everybody thought and what they believe Adonai Mitchell to be. I will, again, temper your enthusiasm a little bit. I'm not trying to whiz in your Wheaties, but temper the enthusiasm because we've been down this path before with others, only to see not ready for prime time, especially when your expectation is immediately. So you got to be careful with that, especially with this team and organization. We'll talk to Stephen Holder about that. JMV, let me run this back. JMV, I've actually commented on some of your posts and received invites to view girly pics and videos. Someone or some entity has you targeted. What am I supposed to be here? My Jack Horner? Who am I? Oh, I didn't know this. Gutshot Greg, who is somewhere out in the deep woods listening. This is pretty awesome right here. What does it say? You know how you have on your dash 107.5 The Fan, and it says religious talk. Why is that?
I have no idea.
Can Todd help us out here? because I wouldn't know the first thing about religion. The last time I went to church was 1979, not because I'm anti. I just, my Sundays, I view myself, I look in the mirror and I feel like I'm a pretty good dude without it. Hopefully. Religious talk. Yeah, I just sent that back out again. Does anybody else have on their tuner, does it say religious talk? Because I can break into some if you want. What kind of religious talk are we going to go into right here? Like the original Carrie type of something like that? Thank you, Gutshot, for it. This is not your home for religious talk. JMV, are you sure you aren't Dirk Diggler? I was actually giving you some real ones. Now, I know my way around 80s-wise here, but yeah, I just don't know why I've been targeted. Thank you for that. Quick one, we'll come back. Stephen Holder, top of the hour. Got your chance to win a 4-pack to go see the swimming qualifiers at Lucas Oil Stadium as well. I would love for you to stay right here. And it's not the religious talk you're looking for. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Jedi are being murdered. Letterman! Hi, David. I'm Grandpa.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right. This, by the way, the cover from Hootie and the Blowfish of Losing My Religion. Did you guys enjoy Hootie and the Blowfish and Collective Soul over the weekend? I've heard good things. So, we had Gutshot bring this up a little bit earlier. Did you change your format? He's listening to 107.5. It says religious talk. There is a station in Terre Haute, Indiana. It, back in the day, was a great rocker. It was the Vigo County rocker. WZZQ is what it was then. It was actually the first place. This is a true story. It's back maybe 87, 88. I can remember the term, the radio term, the segment called Mandatory Metallica. Now, it may have, copied it from somebody else, but that's the first time I remember ever hearing a segment where they would give you maybe 2 or 3 songs to start at 10 o'clock hour of Metallica, and they would call it Mandatory Metallica. I don't know if anybody else does that now. Do they?
I don't know if anybody
Metallica.
I don't know if anybody does it anymore, but I remember what you're talking about. I heard it when I was growing up.
Yes. Well, and then it was everywhere else. I'm just saying the first place that I ever heard it was WZZQ in Terre Haute, and that was 107.5, and 107.5 evidently is a religious station in Terre Haute. So, Gutshot, I don't know if you're in Vigo County or around it, but that's why you're getting religious talk when it says our station there, 107.5. Eric chimes in, it says 107.5 FM foreign language, which, yes, it is foreign. It's very Green Countyan, foreign language. Stafakit, Davenport, Green County, you say Coats instead of Colts, like AC does. Coats. Got Coats talk coming up. Or when you say, hold on a minute, or I'm sorry, let me take this back. Hold on. That's H-O-D-E. That is, in fact, a very foreign language, Eric. That's accurate. JMV, this is for your religious talk. Quote, I can see your dirty pillows. End quote. Carrie's mom, who I believe just passed away, the actress that played Carrie's mom recently in the original. Piper Laurie, I believe, is the name of the actress. I can see your turn. And I'm somebody that certainly grew up in great recognition of nude scenes, right? I talk about Fast Times all the time. Just One of the Guys. When we grew up, there were films with a certain level of, I want to say innocent, but I don't know if that's the right term, but nude scenes. And if you wanted to be scarred for life, if the first nude scene you saw was that in Carrie from 1976, then you're probably scarred for life. And a shout out to the actress Sissy Spacek, but that was a very uncomfortable moment in the shower right there, James. Have you seen the original Carrie?
No, I saw the remake a couple years ago.
Have you seen the uncomfortable moment in the shower with Sissy Spacek in 76?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, that'll singe the eyeballs right there, James. Ray says evidently this happens in Lebanon all the time, too. Thank you. All right, quick one, we'll come back. Stephen Holder, or as we say in our foreign language from Green County would say Stephen Hoder. Stephen Hoder of ESPN is going to join us. We'll talk about Colts minicamp, or in this case, mandatory minicamp, and some of the fascinating pieces and why Rick Venturi disagreed with me on Friday about the need of a veteran safety in. We'll talk to Stephen about that next.
A slow network is no network for business. That's why more choose Comcast Business. And now we're introducing Ultimate Speed for Business.
Got a panty on your head.
Just drive fast, eh?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, somebody help me out here. I'm not a very technology-savvy guy. I'm on X right now, James. And again, not very savvy. That comes with not being very bright in general. So I'm assuming if you were to check Buster Olney's handle right now on X, that it has been hijacked by something. Check it out, James. Buster Olney of ESPN, the baseball guy. I'm assuming that somebody has hijacked his 1.3 million followers. Is this true?
I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary right now.
You're not? Why am I then? It's 2 minutes ago.
Only thing I'm seeing from him recently is stuff he reposted 6 hours ago.
Why did I just get, I will blank all you mothers.
What?
You guys will see it. It's right here. I swear to you, it's right here.
Can you retweet that?
Am I just in a different, what am I in with X? Is there some kind of dark X?
I think you're in
that I'm in here?
The mirror universe of X.
Can somebody put me back in the Walton's Little House on the Prairie room and get me out of wherever I am right now? I'm with Carrie in the shower in 1976.
I wonder if that's a tweet that got sent out and then immediately deleted.
It's right up here.
Oh, you still see? Hit refresh. See if it's still there.
No, I'm not going to do it because then I'll lose it.
Take a photo first and then hit refresh.
Hold on a minute. See, this part I am savvy about right here. That's got to be. Yeah. Now I'm going to see what people are. Oh, see? Yep. This page doesn't exist.
Oh, yep.
So he's been hijacked, hasn't he?
Yeah, either hijacked or he did not mean to hit post on that.
Not to say hijacked, buddy. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline, friend of the show from ESPN, a colleague of the evidently hijacked Buster Olney of ESPN, Stephen Holder. Have you ever had your account hijacked?
I don't think I have, but I've had definitely attempts.
Yeah.
Buster needs to get that two-factor authentication going. I'm sure you have no idea what that is.
I have no idea.
John?
I'm learning something new every day, buddy.
It's basically, all right, when you try to log on to your bank account, I don't know if you've ever done that. I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. My dad can do it, and he's 75.
Right.
But
Thanks.
If you log on to your bank account, you ever get that thing that says, hey, you got to plug in the code we just texted you. Right, that's basically a form of two-factor authentication. When you have that, you can do that on Twitter for your sign-on, and that's a good way to protect it. You should do that. Anybody in a public role should do that because you get situations like that.
If you're getting hijacked to this level, would you have to just tell everybody that you're being hijacked? 'Cause I don't see where he has yet.
So I think he probably just got a 1,000 text messages like, hey, buddy, I think something's going on. I mean, I had my daughter's 15, and she had her Instagram account hacked, and my cousin saw it and texted me, and I'm like, well, first of all, why are you following her? You're just getting a bunch of crap on your feed, but whatever. Anyway, my cousin saw it and immediately texted me like, hey, check out Mia's Instagram and deal with it. There's a problem. And, of course, I have no access to it. So I was, stuck there while she was at school. So, people. There are a lot of people out there with a lot of time on their hands, man, looking to fool somebody. I got a message the other day, and I almost shared it with my followers because I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I was going to take a screenshot and share it, but then I figured it out. I got a DM from someone posing to be Twitter support, like the support account. And it looked real for a second there.
Sure.
And it told me to click here because my account was being investigated for copyright rules or something like that. And I said, well, did I post something I shouldn't have posted? photo or something like that. So I actually stopped for a second and said, damn, I might have screwed up. But then I thought through it, and I realized after a little bit of investigation that it was not authentic. So anyway, I did not click that link ultimately, but that was definitely a phishing attempt there.
Yeah. See, I mess it up. Like on Friday, we do these things with Pat Sullivan, hashtag Ask Pat. And I put on Facebook, hashtag Ask Pat, and I didn't mean to do it. I left the K out, Ask Pat. And the director all called me and said, hey, man, you may want to take down hashtag Ask Pat. I said, okay.
I mean, you're encouraging a whole different type of behavior there, buddy. Man.
So I was talking to Rick Venturi on the show on Friday. He spent about an hour and a half with us, and I was asking him some of the things that stuck out to him, over the course of mandatory minicamp. And I brought up my thought that ultimately they're going to have to go out and scout and bring in a veteran safety. And he said, yeah, not so fast. I think they're going to be okay at that position even without it. Would you agree?
I think they are prepared to move forward with Nick Cross and Julian Blackmon. Look, I would say in the secondary in general, they're much higher on their current lineup than we are. And, look, it is what it is. I do think certainly Julian Blackmon's coming off his best season. As long as he stays healthy, and he has had some injuries, but if he stays healthy, I like him just about better than anything else they could go out there and sign at the moment, right? So I'm not worried about that. The question is in that second spot. Look, to put it this way, you're talking about a third-year player here in Nick Cross. At some point, these guys got to either put up or shut up, and I think the Colts take that perspective like, it's going to be, third year in the system. That helps as well. The players more mature, older, more experienced. At some point, you have to kind of trust them and put those guys out there. I think that's some of what you're seeing now, with a guy like that, and maybe even those corners to a degree, even though they aren't as experienced. But they're trusting their system. They're trusting their players' ability to grow. It doesn't mean they're going to be right. I'm just telling you what they're thinking here. So I don't hate it. I don't hate the safety situation. I do agree they have options out there, though, and they'll have to decide whether they want to take that chance. I think corner is a little different conversation for me, but I can live with it at safety to a degree.
Are they going to have better options, they might think, at safety once you get in and out of camp, or is that still not giving somebody enough time to acclimate? What would you do right now if you were thinking about it? Would you go with, hey, I think we're good, or would you go out and bring somebody in just in case? Because we have seen, I think, opinions like this, hey, we're good, and then it turned out to be not good in the past.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a close call. Some of the safeties available out there. I mean, look, there's also a value question too. I mean, whether we like to acknowledge it or not, there's a difference between, Nick Cross playing at X level and another veteran player, let me back up. Nick Cross playing at whatever level he plays at for, $1.5 million or whatever it is, versus a veteran player who's more accomplished, but on the downside of his career, playing at a little bit higher level, but he's going to cost you $6 million or something, right? And so I'm not saying, obviously, on an NFL level, maybe we're splitting hairs a little bit financially there, but we're talking about several $1 million, and the money is real money, and so that's a factor. I'm not saying it's the factor, but that has to be factored in. And then there's also just the reality that players grow when they play. And I think that's a big part of this. Nick Cross got on the field last year because he was the better option. As the season went along, he became the better option. And then Blackmon got hurt, and then he was obviously in there full time. He, I think, has proven himself, or at least he's displayed, I think, some play that suggests that he deserves this shot. But it's not a sure thing. And I think that's the key. That's the reality. It's not a sure thing. You're still dealing with a young player, a little bit unproven. it really does. I think you have to go with your gut, and their gut right now is saying we like his upside. And that's the other thing that you have to take into account here. Those veteran players, you don't have that upside. You do have the upside with the younger player. So that's all. You throw all that in the pot, and then you kind of figure out where you stand. I know I said a mouthful there, but I guess what I'm saying is it's not a slam dunk that the other option is definitely the better pass. Although I think there's an argument to be made for it.
He is Stephen Holder of ESPN. He covers the Colts. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I'm sure I'll get to his opinion on Caitlyn Clark coming up in just a second because I'm sure he has one like everybody else does. But Colts football right now, and Adonai Mitchell, why would you believe right now that he could have a better start than a lot of us thought that Alec Pierce could get off to, for example, reasons to believe versus reasons where you're getting excited in June over something that may not materialize early in his career?
Look, I'm telling you, I really think, I know we use this term too much, but this kid has like some dog in him. There's no question about it. I think you can see it. Like, there's no fear when he's out there. I don't see any fear whatsoever. You know, he's out there with the vets. And this is a guy who played, I think, I don't know, roughly 24 or so college games. You know, we're not talking about, in I guess 2.5 years of college football because he missed half a season with an injury. So you're talking about a guy who is super young from a football perspective. And he's out there acting like, you know, they always say that it's not too big for them, or, you know, the guys who display that it's not too big for them. Like, he's that on steroids. Like, this guy, he is not phased at all, okay? And I'm not saying that's going to be the case when he's out there, you know, going up against Sauce Gardner, you know, later in the season. But for now, with what he's facing, he's handling his business. And the other thing about this guy, and I was talking to some scouts the other day, they concurred on this. He does not drop the ball. He has great hands. I mean, very, very reliable hands. So he has a lot going for him. And I'll tell you right now, this is the biggest test that Alec Pierce has ever faced, I would imagine, in his career, certainly in his NFL career. Because granted, he didn't have a lot of production last year, but he was always on the field. Now he has to earn his way onto the field before we start talking about production. There's two different arguments here now. There are two different mileposts. He's got to get on the field, and then he's got to produce. Because Adonai Mitchell is showing that he should be out there. And I'm not saying Alec Pierce won't play. I'm just saying the opportunities I do not think will be as plentiful as they were in the past for him.
Stephen Holder of ESPN, kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Naughty by nature, saying it. Everything's going to be all right. I don't think they meant like everything was going to be all right in the 90s, but it was a great song. How's the song going to go for Anthony Richardson? Will everything be all right? Was there much to do about nothing in June, or is there more that we'll have to go through because, you know, obviously some people around here are scarred from the past?
I get it. And, you know, we all lived it. I understand. I don't have any hesitation about Anthony Richardson. I think having spoken to Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay about this topic at length, with all of that past taken into account by both of them, right? There is a take no chances approach applied to him. So if he has any issue whatsoever, I tweeted this the other day, I'll repeat it here, they would treat it like a 5-alarm fire. And I talked to Chris Ballard about this, and I mean, enough time has passed. I can just say this now. I mean, his attitude when it first happened with Anthony, remember there was that whole debate about, well, should they have surgery and could he come back and play? And remember before the decision was made public, right? There was a little bit of that debate. Chris Ballard was clear when I talked to him. He said, listen, I am never going to let what happened to Andrew Luck happen again over my dead body, you know, and that was his approach to the whole thing. He's scarred too. Okay? We're scarred. They're scarred. Everybody's scarred. So just keep that in mind. I mean, you're talking about a general manager and a medical staff that lived through that Andrew Luck turmoil, or at least part of it in Chris Ballard's case, right? The latter part of it. So they don't want to live that again. I mean, this is the closest they've been to being relevant for a long time. So I guess what I'm saying is they are not going to overlook any issue here. I really do think this was just soreness. I remember spending a little time with Anthony down in Florida a couple months ago, and that was the concern then, was, all right, how much is too much? Because, if you start to feel sore, then it's normal, but you just have to back off a little bit. And I think that's what they did. They did exactly what they were clear they were going to do, and what the doctors had said was the course of action. If he has soreness, just back off a little. It's normal, but don't push it. And so I saw them doing exactly what the professionals told them to do, which I think is a good thing.
So what part, I mean, obviously we know what scarred Chris, but what part did he learn from out of that whole Luck saga? Because we're talking about different levels, different areas of things that I think everybody can learn from. But I guess what was the part that was most profound to him?
Well, I think it's just a general takeaway, which is to just be super conservative. And we can even go back to prior to Chris Ballard's time. Look, the conservative approach would have been for Andrew Luck to immediately have surgery, right? When he hurt that thing back in 2015. And look, some of the details are foggy at this point, right? We don't all remember every small detail, but if you're dealing with a labrum, that's a pretty serious thing for a quarterback. Andrew determined or decided, I guess, to kind of grit it out. And ultimately that wasn't a great decision. And he will tell you that he drove that decision. Now, should there have been more pushback? And, I'm not going to second guess people, 8 years later. It doesn't matter. But certainly, he got the blessing of the doctors and the team to move forward in that fashion. Ultimately, or in hindsight, that was not a great decision, because playing through it meant that he did further damage to it, and it made the comeback harder, which is why in 2017, Andrew Luck had the difficulties that he had. So I guess the lesson there, and that's where Chris Ballard entered the picture, right? So the lesson there was, all right, we should have dealt with this on the front end and not the back end. And so they applied that to Anthony Richardson. And so it wasn't necessarily a mistake that Chris Ballard made, per se, with Andrew Luck. It was more, he was dealing with the fallout of decisions that Luck made in terms of how to proceed with that injury and how to deal with it. Chris Ballard had to deal with the effects of that. So that's where the learning, I think, came from. And again, the lesson just generally is just to be really conservative and let's get it right. And then worry about the football later.
So Stephen Holder of ESPN talking Colts on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So I had Matt Gay on Friday, and it was interesting because he basically brought it up and then owned it himself in the world of free agent signings, and that was a big place-kicking swing by the Colts as we saw a year ago. Where would that rank? And I asked this because I know that he hit the upright, I think 6 times is what he said a year ago, and he's one of the lower percentage inaccuracy kickers in the NFL, and most of his misses were from 50-plus. But do you view that as a bad signing now after that year that he had?
No, I really don't. I think he had a lot of long attempts, and I think Shane Steichen put him in some tough spots. Looking at it here, I mean, he had 13 attempts of 50 yards or longer. That's a lot. He was let's see, he was 8 for 13 at 50 yards or longer. But a lot of those were not just like 50 or 51. He had a few that were like 57, 58, 59. So I think that's, that's to be taken into account. And I think it really is a product of Shane being, relatively aggressive as well. So I'm okay with it. I think if you think about it, I mean, this guy talking about eight field goals of 50 yards or longer. I mean, in the years prior to last year, I mean, I don't know how many they had, but it wasn't a ton. He had 8 just last year, which, by the way, is a career high for him, and makes from 50 or longer. So the most he had attempted before that in a single year was 9. So that last year, 13. So it skews the numbers a little bit, right? Those are low percentage kicks. And a lot of times when maybe you could have gone for the field goal, inside of 40 yards or something, I mean, they may have gone for it in a lot of those situations. So I really think numbers are sometimes a little misleading with kickers just because they're so dependent on the situations that they're put in. And so I go back to that Baltimore game, for example, right? I mean, he single-handedly won them that game. Now, if they make the playoffs last year, they came close. If they'd have made the playoffs last year, how big would that Baltimore win have been? And that would have been on the strength of Matt Gay's right foot. So I think he had a great season overall, and his contributions, in my opinion, were pretty clear.
So Stephen Holder talking Colts, Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. Jelani Woods, what have we learned now that he's coming off missing every game a year ago, a couple of different injuries? What was the issue? I mean, obviously, was there anything beyond injuries? And what's the level of expectation at a position in which they need a lot from this year?
Yeah, so in terms of what the injury was, it's been explained to me, and I would be lying if I said I totally understood it because it seemed pretty complicated. But he had this sort of imbalance, muscular imbalance going on with the hamstrings. And look, hamstrings are some of the worst injuries you can deal with, right? And if you're a guy that's like a runner, a guy who has to run long distances or run with explosion, things like that, right? And so he didn't understand the depth of his issues until they started getting worse. And once they did, it took them finding several different specialists to really get an understanding of what was going on there. So anyway, it was a frustrating situation, and I think people started to wonder, myself included, like, is there more to this? Is this guy in the doghouse? Is he dogging it? What's going on with him? It turns out, no, he really had a legitimate issue that they had trouble resolving. The good news is I've talked to him about this, and he really feels like he's not like a guy coming off an ACL injury or some big injury that's kind of career threatening. It's not like that. In fact, now that they have this muscular imbalance addressed, he says he feels better than he's ever felt. And I believe him because, everybody says that, right? But this was a guy who was dealing with this thing and playing with it in previous years. Now he feels more like himself. He has more he feels more athletic with it this way now that they've resolved it. And he understands how to avoid having that issue. I know it's kind of vague the way I'm explaining it, but the point is, now that they have an understanding of it and can deal with it and know how to treat it, he says he's better than ever. If that's true, that's a great thing because this is a great opportunity for him. He has, without question, he has the most upside of anybody in that tight end room. And with them not going out there and addressing it, I think it says a lot about what they're expecting from Jelani Woods. To some degree, Will Mallory, I think, is the other guy with a lot of upside in there. Drew Ogletree's back. We'll see what he does there. I mean, he's been a little bit underwhelming at times, but he also they've also thrown it to him in some key situations, like in the red zone when they need a touchdown. So they're going to lean pretty heavily on that room. I think really, though, it starts and it ends with Jelani Woods. He is, when you look at this team and you look at matchup problems, and what's the first thing Shane Steichen does when he looks at the opponent? Okay, who are our matchup issues? Who can they not match up with? Well, Jelani Woods is, I think, without a question, he's one of the toughest matchups the Colts could potentially have if he's what they hope he is. So, with his length and his speed and his ability to high point the football, I think he's has a great opportunity, and we'll see if he can maximize it.
It's funny about this. I'm assuming that their whole thought may have changed had Brock Bowers been available 2 more picks, right?
Sure.
I mean, doesn't that thought entirely change?
I mean, you definitely have to think about it. I mean, I still can't say for sure. I still don't have clarity on what they would have done. It would have been fascinating, okay? It would have answered a lot of our questions about how they felt about him and whether all the smoke was real, right? But I never really got any true clarity on it, so I don't want to guess. But it would have been a fascinating situation, and I would have loved to have seen how that would have played out. That would have been fun to find out. All I can say is they have a lot to work with, or they have a lot of upside, I guess, in that tight end room. But they got to tap into the upside. Upside is great, but you've got to maximize it. You got to fulfill it. And, that's what we say about a lot of players, right? I mean, some of them hit that potential and others don't. We'll find out soon whether Jelani Woods will.
I think I brought this up to you before. I had been told maybe there was some lack of being in shape reasons as to why last year went for Woods the way that it did. Was that bogus?
It's not what I was told. The answer is I don't know. I would say it could have contributed, I guess. That's certainly possible. But I also think he's not the first player to have, sort of long-running problems with hamstrings. I mean, it does tend to happen, particularly with guys who are, a certain type of athletic physique and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I think it's possible that it was just what it was. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yep. Hey, what are you writing about here in closing? You can we talk about, because I was privy to James telling me who you were on the horn with before you joined us. Is there anything you can say right now, or you want to wait?
You interrupted a call with someone you may have heard of, some guy named Tony Dungy.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're working on some Hall of Fame stuff.
Okay.
So we were having a good chat about old Dwight Freeney, and that was fun, as you can imagine, because, I mean, who doesn't want to talk defense with a guy who knows a little something about defense, right?
Well, so, that pick, I remember being here. That pick was widely panned nationally. And Bill Poley, Bill Poley, as usual, told everybody to shove it where the sun don't shine, and turned out to be accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I won't give away the whole story, but I mean, he definitely recounted that, just how the draft pick was panned, and he also said that him and Bill, it was very clear to them. They took it into account. Look, we know we're going to score. We are going to score a ton of points. We're not worried about that, because this was Tony's first draft, right? So everyone recalls that. So he came into this thing understanding, okay, well, we're going to get 28 points. But then what? So what does that mean? He said, we're going to have leads in the fourth quarter. Teams are going to be throwing the football. We got to go get the quarterback. And it was a brilliant move, and the rest is history. And now Dwight's going to Canton. So, I mean, talk about a stroke of genius. They crushed it on that one for sure.
So Stephen Holder's got that forthcoming and more on. I'm sorry I didn't have time for Caitlyn Clark. I'm sure you probably don't mind. So.
All I'll say on Caitlyn is this. I mean, this is all that needs to be said. It's not a groundbreaking take, but I just wish we could talk about basketball sometime.
And she does. You know what? She does. I have more admiration for her now than ever, because she just wants to play. She wants to earn it. And I think that's what we all should want about anybody playing a sport like that. And it's unfortunate that it's basically her and maybe some of us, some others, and that's about it. Everybody else wants to bring other crap into it. But I have a great deal of admiration for that.
That's where I feel a little bad for her, because like there are people who want her to step in and she should say something, or she should stand up for others, or whatever your perspective is. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But there are people that think she has a responsibility to say something about the discourse. I'm here to tell you it ain't going to matter, buddy. Okay? We are way past that, okay? Yeah. There is nothing she can say that would get people to stand.
And it would make it worse if she did, and I'm glad she doesn't because she's got a level head. And I thought honestly her coach coming out and making everybody privy to, privately what she had said about, waking up the monster here, that should have been left behind closed doors too, especially when you're trying to get the focus and the bullseye off a player that it's been firmly on to a great level so far in her young career.
Yeah, it's a really interesting social experiment, this whole thing. And I don't know, they may study this in a college class one day.
Yeah, well, we're not good enough to be able to. I mean, you look at everybody trying to do it. There's way too many dumbasses around here to have that conversation with. It just is.
Yeah. This will be studied by psychologists one day. This whole thing.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
All right, buddy. We'll await your conversation with Tony Dungy. Appreciate you.
All right, my guy. I'll see you soon.
It's Stephen Holder on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. This date in 2007, we watched it. I loved it. Most of you, as I remember very well, did not. Explain that coming up next. 4-pack to go see the swimming Olympic qualifiers also on the way. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
A quick question for dads. Is your child's school providing them with
with JMV.
Excuse me, Robo. Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
17 years ago tonight, where were you? Were you watching the series finale of The Sopranos? Is The Sopranos the greatest television show of all time? HBO's Sopranos. 17 years ago tonight. And it will go down in history as probably the most argued point, as the series finale is kind of viewed like Seinfeld's series finale in being incredibly bad. Whether you didn't like it because you just didn't like Journey's Don't Stop Believin', you didn't like it because it took Meadow like 45 minutes to parallel park, or you just didn't like it in general. And, you know, the way that it ended, it offered no closure on to, I guess, windows in which were wide open. So Tony Soprano and family met, and I think at the time what was their favorite ice cream parlor for onion rings, and the meal just ended as Don't Stop Believin' by Journey was playing. And at the time, if you remember, Don't Not Stop Believin' was being utilized in, what show was that? Glee, I think. And I've always said this. If you go back to 1981, Journey's album Escape was tremendously popular, one of the most popular in the 1980s. But that song was taken to a different level because of the series finale and the role that it played in that final episode in The Sopranos, and because of what it was doing on Glee. Seriously, it was more popular then than it was when it came out, and even in 81 it was incredibly unpopular, or I should say incredibly popular. Yes.
I don't think it was Glee, because Glee didn't start until 2009, it says.
No, it was Glee. Yes. It was. It had. They did a cover. Glee did a cover. I didn't watch Glee, but I know we heard enough from Glee where they did a cover of "Don't Stop Believin'."
Well, I thought did you say that "Don't Stop Believin'" was in the Sopranos finale?
It was.
Oh, but like Glee didn't air until 2009. I thought you were saying that it was popular because Glee and the Sopranos were on at the same time.
I think it was like maybe a year and a half, 2 years apart.
I thought you were saying
it was
that
more popular during that time frame and made more popular now than it was upon its original release.
I thought you were saying
Escape in 1981.
I thought you were saying Glee and Sopranos were on the air at the same time.
And most people hated it. Most people hated the series finale. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as being the greatest television show of all time, but I will say this. I don't miss any of these clips that we consistently see that were created on TikTok. I love it. And the Pine Barrens episode where Chris and Polly Walnuts, R.I.P., are lost in the wilderness of southern New Jersey in the cold and the snow, trying to off some dude, will go down in history as one of the greatest episodes of all time. Just one of the greatest episodes of all time. So, Sopranos, 17 years ago tonight, the series finale took place, of which not a lot of people like it. Ross writes this: the Colts season needs to be sponsored by Upside. I have to see it all before I can believe it all. Is that fair? Is that fair? Got to see it all before I can believe it all. JMV, are you now hosting church chat? That's hilarious. Yeah, I got this a little bit earlier because I've mentioned this before. Not since 1979 have I've been to church. I did attend a couple of vacation Bible school days in 1980, but nothing much after that. And it's not obviously because, I'm a jerk or anything like that. I've just not been. And who is this here? Catholic Discipleship sent me this. JMV, I've heard you say a few times you haven't been to church since 1979, and when you look in the mirror, you're all right. And I do say that. That's the point I make. I try to treat I treat people like they treat me, and I guess if I have a flaw, and I have many, don't get me wrong, but a major flaw of mine is I hold a significant grudge. And I've tried to be better at that, but I hold a significant grudge, and I get people that try to get me. So those are significant flaws. I recognize that. But I just try to treat people as they treat me and try to be as fun-loving as possible. Those are two, again, significant flaws that I recognize and own. The issue is not going to church. The issue is what will you do about the claims of Jesus Christ and our need to receive him and what he did for us? I don't know. I don't know what to do about that. I don't. And I'm not making light of it. I just don't. I just want to try to be the best me to those around me and to you as possible. And, yeah, I don't know. That's all pretty deep for me there, CD. It is. Now, if you'd ever like to discuss the nuances between the two, I'd love to talk with you. God bless. So that's nice. So, yeah, I am incredibly lost in that particular environment. But, yeah, the religious station is in Terre Haute, 107.5. That's where this whole thing got sparked. JMV. I have the same religious station all the time. I know. It's 107.5. It used to be a hell of a rocker back then. Back in the 80s. Mandatory Metallica. All right, James, you told me to go when I didn't go. Go early. We got some swimming qualifiers, a family four-pack for you from the incredibly nice guy who just simply put may not completely understand, but owns that he has significant flaws on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Attention bowling fans.
Ride with JMV.
He's my best friend. He's my pal. He's my homeboy, my rotten soldier. He's my sweet cheese, my good time boy.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Good day. Really enjoyed it with you. A lot of interesting points regarding Caitlyn Clark and my thoughts on that. Buster Olney continues to have 1.3 million followers view everything that is being hacked about his account right now on X. I shouldn't laugh. Hey, by the way, number 9 at 239-1070, you got the swimming qualifiers for the Olympics in Paris. That is coming up at Lucas Oil Stadium, number 9 at 239-1070. Can go on us, a family 4-pack to what is going to be an outstanding event. That place is going to hold like 30-plus K. And as I say all the time, no better place to do it than Indy, and why you would want to do it anyplace else is beyond me. Going to be a blast. Number 9 at 239-1070 is going to go. Here's the latest from Buster Olney's account. Shohei Ohtani has been banned for life from MLB in connection to charges of gambling. His trial is on August the 28th. It's speculated he could get life in prison. This is Buster Olney's clearly hacked account. Oh, here's another one. You want this one? Are we sure that Buster Olney didn't type this? Okay, if I get an unlimited prison sentence, who will come and bring panties?
I personally like the guy asking him if he can just tweet, I hate the Mets. He's just like, yeah, of course.
I shouldn't be laughing, but this is kind of funny. 1.3 million followers, and this is like major league hacked right here.
I swear to you, I don't even know who I hacked. Who is this Buster?
JMV, my parents told me never to talk money, politics, or religion with other people, but I completely stand with you on the religious thing. And I don't any of that. I'm just an average guy with exceptional hair. You know what I mean? Nah, sometimes I have a different view on just, again, trying to be nice until it's time not to be nice. How I view that. Thank you, guys. But no, we all on the same page with a lot of that, no doubt about it. Stephen Holder. Evan Sidery, podcast 1075thefan.com. If you missed any of my conversation regarding Caitlyn Clark, hopefully you did. She to me now is more admired by me than she ever has been because of how she's handled this entire situation. Better than most. Most that are stirring up stuff, especially. That again tomorrow. James, great job out of you. Tomorrow right here, again at 3, 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan. Have a great night.